Scientists recently explored a cave that had been sealed for 40,000 years, and the discoveries made there are profoundly transforming our understanding of our closest ancestors. Located in the cliffs of Gibraltar, where the Mediterranean and the Atlantic meet, this chamber concealed much more than emptiness. Protected by an ancient sand barrier, it perfectly preserved the vestiges of a vanished culture, kept in total isolation for 4 millennia. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. The site presented intriguing traces. Animal remains in unexpected locations, a seashell carried from the shore to the depths of the slope, and markings engraved in the stone with intentional precision. This evidence definitively proves that those whom we have labeled for generations as rudimentary beings actually possessed a sophistication that we completely ignored. Recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 2016, this complex, composed of 4 limestone caves, Gorham, Vanguard, Hyena, and Bennett, is located on the southeastern slope of the rock formation. Their openings were carved by the force of the sea, and the soil within these cavities holds traces of 120,000 years of uninterrupted human presence. Since the 1980s, scientists had already detected evidence of exceptional events that occurred there at the end of the last glacial period. However, what was hidden beneath the layers of sand in the depths of Vanguard Cave surpassed all expectations. We are bringing a real analysis that no one else is exploring in sufficient depth. The discovery began after 9 years of meticulous excavations. Archaeologists from the National Museum of Gibraltar, led by Professor Clive Finlayson, one of the world's leading authorities on Neanderthal behavior, had been slowly removing sediments from the deepest areas of Vanguard Cave. Then they encountered something that made them stop immediately. A dense blockage of ancient sand obstructed their path. It wasn't crumbling rock or geological debris. It was sand. Compacted, ancient, perfectly sealed. Not moved since the last time Neanderthals walked that coastline. When that sand was finally removed, it revealed a 13-meter-deep chamber carved into the cave ceiling. A space approximately 13 meters deep that remained completely isolated from the outside world for at least 40,000 years. Think about what that really means. The sand that sealed this chamber is at least as old as the extinction of the last Neanderthals. Everything in that room, every bone, every mark, every trace of whoever or whatever last entered, remained in total darkness and untouched since before modern humans painted caves in France and Spain. Before agriculture, before civilization, even before language as we know it existed on this planet. How many times in your life will you encounter something that no one has accessed for 40,000 years? Finlayson told reporters afterward. This only happens once in a lifetime, I think. What the team found upon finally crossing the barrier wasn't treasure in the conventional sense. It was something stranger and far more significant. Initial findings revealed remains of lynx, spotted hyena, and griffon vulture. 3 top predators and scavengers whose bones shouldn't be gathered together in a high, sealed chamber inside a cliff. These animals don't naturally group together. They don't share burrows. Someone, or something, led them there. The walls revealed something even more disturbing. Deep claw marks from an unidentified carnivore scratched directly into the limestone surface of the sealed room. Whatever made those marks got trapped inside that chamber for reasons researchers are still trying to understand. But here comes the first shocking twist. Between the predator's bones and the mysterious marks, the team found something completely out of place. A large whelk, a type of edible sea snail, positioned at the bottom of the chamber, far from the shore. Whelks don't climb, they don't travel, they don't end up alone in sealed rock chambers 20 meters from the beach. The whelk is at the bottom of that cave, probably about 20 meters from the beach. explained Professor Finlayson. Someone brought that conch shell there more than 40,000 years ago. That already gives me a clue that people were there. And those people, judging by their age, can only be Neanderthals. This single marine snail, transported from the Mediterranean coast to the darkest corner of a sealed chamber inside a mountain by a being that disappeared 40,000 years ago, is one of the most impactful archaeological discoveries of the modern era. It means that the last Neanderthals were not starving, not desperate, and not hiding without the capacity to plan. They were making deliberate decisions about where to store food. They were transporting resources from the coast to protected inland spaces. They were organizing their world with intention and planning. Consider how violently this contradicts what science has taught us for most of the 20th century. For generations, Neanderthals were portrayed as narrow-minded brutes, slow, stooped, almost incapable of complex thought, easily replaced when modern humans arrived from Africa about 40,000 years ago. The story of books was simple. Intelligent humans arrived. Dumb Neanderthals have disappeared. But the Gorham Cave complex has been systematically dismantling that narrative for decades, and the discovery of the sealed chamber is just the latest blow to a model of human evolution that insists on ignoring what the evidence actually shows. Then came the second devastating revelation. The sealed chamber wasn't even the most explosive discovery in Vanguard Cave. Neanderthal behavior so sophisticated that researchers are still struggling to classify it. In 2024, an international team published findings describing a campfire-like structure, approximately 60,000 years old, that Neanderthals had specifically designed to produce plant tar used as glue. Read that again? 60,000 years. A controlled and deliberate manufacturing process of an industrial adhesive inside a cave on the edge of the Mediterranean. This was no ordinary campfire. It was a circular structure with 2 channels and thick walls designed to heat plant fragments without exposure to air, in a process called pyrolysis, to extract the sticky resin contained in the material. Neanderthals were not using birch bark, like their counterparts in colder climates. They adapted the technology to the local resources of the Mediterranean, using a plant called rock rose as raw material. The resulting tar was used to fix stone points to wooden shafts, creating reliable composite spears for hunting on the coastal plains in front of the cave entrance. This is not the behavior of an intellectually inferior species. This is chemistry. This is materials science. This is problem-solving across generations. The third twist completely changes who these people really were. Because this sophisticated glue-making technology reveals something extraordinary about the transmission of knowledge among Neanderthals. The process of controlled heating with low oxygen to produce tar cannot be discovered by chance. It cannot emerge through trial and error in a single generation. It requires accumulated knowledge, shared among individuals over time, deliberately taught from the most experienced to the younger ones. The site only survived because a fast-moving sand dune sealed it, along with pollen and spores that preserved a snapshot of the external environment at the time of closure. A natural time capsule that captured the knowledge of an entire culture at the exact moment it was about to disappear from Earth forever. Gorham's Cave reveals when all the evidence is put together. Gorham and Vanguard caves are filled with mussel shells, along with bones of fish, monk seals, and dolphins, none of which arrived there naturally. These remains show cut marks made by stone tools, indicating that the food was carefully processed, divided, and prepared. The Neanderthals of Gibraltar weren't just collecting remains. They explored marine life and brought it home to cook, organizing their domestic space with structured and predictable food preparation routines. The coastal plain where they hunted during the Ice Age was completely different from the rugged coastline that exists today. Sea levels were drastically lower, and research shows that Neanderthals, from the cave entrance, observed an extensive coastal platform stretching 4.5 kilometers toward what is now the Mediterranean Sea. A vast landscape of sand dunes, pine forests, seasonal lakes, and wildlife so abundant that researchers have described it as a Mediterranean Serengeti. All of this world is now submerged. The Neanderthals who lived in these caves watched, over generations, as their hunting grounds slowly disappeared beneath rising sea levels, an environmental catastrophe that unfolded in slow motion over thousands of years. But what makes Gorham's Cave unparalleled among all other Neanderthal sites on Earth is a discovery made deeper within the main cave, a discovery that has rewritten the most fundamental assumption about human cognitive evolution. Published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of in the journal Sciences, researchers announced the first confirmed example of an abstract engraving created by Neanderthals, a pattern of crosshatch deeply etched into the rock of Gorham's Cave more than 39,000 years ago. This is not a random scratch, not a tool sharpening groove, not a geological accident. Experimental replication showed that most of the lines that make up the design were made by the repeated and careful passing of a pointed stone tool in the grooves in at least 54 distinct movements, in a deliberate, continuous, and intentional act of creation. And then came the final truth that changes everything about what this engraving represents, revealed by Clive Finlayson himself and his research team. For decades, the production of paintings or engravings on cave walls was considered the cognitive milestone that separated Homo sapiens from all other hominids. The moment when our ancestors became fully human in the modern sense, capable of symbolic thought, abstract representation, and cultural transmission. The Gorham's Cave engravings completely shatter this boundary. Neanderthals, who lived in Gibraltar at least 39,000 years ago, at a time when modern humans had not yet arrived in that region of Europe, were already producing deliberate abstract patterns. Is it art? Is it a doodle? I don't know, but it's clearly an abstract drawing, Finlayson told the National Geographic. We can say with certainty that it is over 39,000 years old, a period when there were no modern humans near Gibraltar. The implications of this discovery cannot be underestimated. The capacity for abstract thought, to represent an idea, pattern, or symbol in a physical medium, was considered a cognitive achievement unique to our species. It was the explanation for why Homo sapiens survived, while Neanderthals did not. It was the argument used to justify every advantage we supposedly possessed. The cave evidence suggests that Neanderthals not only hunted birds and exploited marine resources for food, but also used feathers for ornamentation and created abstract rock carvings, behaviors that the entire framework of human evolution attributed exclusively to modern humans. If the Neanderthals of Gibraltar were capable of symbolic thought, the manufacture of composite tools, organized food processing, the exploitation of marine resources, and even chemical production, all documented in the sedimentary layers of a cave complex recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, then the story of why they disappeared becomes far more complex and far more unsettling. Gorham Cave Complex also overturned another assumption, that Neanderthals disappeared around 40,000 years ago when modern humans arrived. Artifacts found in Gibraltar suggest that Neanderthals may have survived in that location until between 33,000 and 24,000 years ago, meaning some populations may have continued to exist for up to 16,000 years after the supposed extinction date. If this is correct, it places the last Neanderthals on Earth in Gibraltar at the same time our ancestors were building complex societies across Europe, possibly even within reach of each other across the Strait of Gibraltar. The question of what happened during those last few thousand years, whether there was contact, conflict, genetic interbreeding, or simply ecological displacement as the last coastal hunting grounds disappeared beneath the sea, remains one of archaeology's most unsettling and unanswered questions. Think about what it means to stand today at the entrance to Vanguard Cave, looking out over the Mediterranean, knowing that 40,000 years ago, a Neanderthal stood in virtually the same spot, carrying a conch shell from the beach, preparing fish with a stone knife, producing sticky tar in a controlled chemical structure, and scratching abstract patterns into the rock for reasons we still can't fully decipher. The chamber they sealed is now open again. Its secrets are being catalogued, fragment by fragment, carefully identified, and Professor Finlayson has made something absolutely clear about what lies ahead. As the excavations progress, the magnitude of the discovery tends to increase. The newly opened chamber is only the starting point. Beneath the ground, layers of still untouched sediment hold an uninterrupted record of the Neanderthal trajectory, spanning tens of millennia. Each portion of Earth analyzed has the potential to once again transform our understanding of humanity's past. The ingenuity of this species, which left deliberate marks and transported mollusks before being sealed by time, waited 40,000 years to be revealed. With this passage finally open, what we discover next could become the most crucial account of our origins. Gorham Complex has already provided fundamental evidence for understanding Neanderthal reasoning. The isolated camera in Vanguard Cave is the most recent evidence from a place that forces us to confront a challenging reality. The group that was long labeled as inferior was already manufacturing adhesives, navigating the seas, using feathers as adornment, creating abstract symbols, and clearly structuring their homes, all while witnessing the geographical transformations of their world. They were not rudimentary beings, but similar to us. The reason for their extinction, therefore, was certainly not the absence of intellect. In the end, Vanguard Cave functions as a mirror for modern man, displaying a species capable of innovating and giving meaning to life until its last days. The archaeological work is expected to continue for a long time, and it is believed that the chamber's soil hides even older secrets. If the pace of discoveries continues, the next revelation behind that sand barrier could solve the great enigma of paleoanthropology. The problem is not understanding why they disappeared, but rather why it took us so long to accept them as our equals.